You've been in that room. Your IT leadership is presenting a cloud proposal. They're using the words like IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. You've heard those words enough times, and it feels like you already knew what they mean. So you nod. Today I'm going to tell you what they actually mean, what they actually cost, and what you are actually responsible for when something goes wrong. Because the last part is where most executives get a very unpleasant surprise. So first, let's talk about IaaS, infrastructure as a service. In plain terms, it's nothing more than virtual servers running in someone else's data center. Instead of owning your own hardware, you're renting compute power from a cloud provider and building your environment out there. But here's where the cost conversation gets real. In IaaS, you're paying per minute for every server that is running. Every minute, whether anyone is using it or not. Once it's on and configured, the meter's running. And the problem I have seen more times than I can count is that nobody is watching the meter. Developers are notorious for this. You give a developer access to a cloud environment, and they will build the biggest machine they possibly can to test their solution. And they will forget to shut it down. And that environment sits there running and building for weeks, sometimes months, and nobody knows until the invoice lands. When I was running a shop, every single week I would sit down with the entire team, and we would go through the cloud spend line by line and compare it to the week before. That's how you catch it. If you're not doing that, you won't know until it's too late. The best way I can describe IaaS is this. It's like having your own data center where someone else pays the electricity bill and handles the security of the physical building. Everything inside, the servers, the security, the patching, the backups, disaster recovery, that's still entirely on you. Now, PaaS, platform as a service, is a bit of a different animal. Instead of building out a whole server environment to run your application, you're using the cloud provider's platform to host and run your code. You write the application, you hand it to the platform handles the underlying infrastructure. The servers, the security of those servers, the high availability, the DR of the platform itself is all on the vendor. And it's a good model, it's fast to develop, and it's easier to scale. And then there's SaaS, software as a service. This is your Salesforce, your Workdays, your ServiceNows. The vendor runs the entire application. You're not building anything, you're not managing the infrastructure. You pay a per user month fee to get access to their platform. Now, I hear a lot about executives complaining about SaaS licensing costs, and being someone who has had to approve those invoices in the past, I understand it. But you have to understand what you're paying for. It's not just access to their software. You're paying for everything the vendor is responsible for. The application security, the infrastructure, the high availability, the disaster recovery, the compliance, the maintenance, the new features. All of that is on them. Now, here is where SaaS costs actually get out of control. And this is what most executives don't catch. Because it's not about who's logging in. It's the people who are not logging in. The real drain is over entitlement of licenses. So let's say your organization has 300 Salesforce users, every one of them provisioned on the enterprise tier level. And it costs about $100 a month. They have all the rights, can make sandboxes, complex reporting capabilities, everything that they can use. And 250 of those people are just salespeople and account managers. They need to log in, view their accounts, update their pipeline, but then they get out. And then there's all those who never log in. That is a $10 per month basic access license is all they need. But when your IT team is onboarding those users, it was easier to map everyone to the premium tier than conduct a needs analysis for every individual. Now, I want to tell you something that is going to reframe every cloud conversation you're going to have going forward. And I want to be fair here first. There are legitimate reasons why an IT team will recommend IaaS over PaaS over SaaS. Sometimes you have a legacy system, a core application written 15 years ago with dependencies that make it structurally impossible to run anywhere else. But there's another reason that really doesn't get said out loud, but it's worth understanding. IaaS and PaaS give the IT something to do. It gives the IT team something to do. They're managing servers, they're managing the environment, they're managing security and infrastructure. That's headcount, that's budget, that's organizational weight. When you move to SaaS, you don't need nearly as many IT resources to manage the platform. The vendor handles it. And your IT team knows that. So the next time your IT team tells you they should build it themselves or run it in IaaS because it gives you more control, ask them to put the full cost on paper. Licensing cost on one side, fully loaded headcount, security infrastructure, disaster recovery, and compliance on the other. Put those numbers next to each other, then make the decision. The question you want answered is this: Is the architecture being driven by what the code requires, or by what the department needs to justify its size? Now, the next thing I want to talk about, and I really want you to listen to this, is the shared responsibility model. And I'm going to be putting a link in the description so you can read it. But before you do, I want to show you why it matters in terms you won't forget. Think about it this way. It's 2 a.m. on a Friday. Your security team calls. There's been a catastrophic data breach. Customer records are exposed. It's going to be on the news by morning. Now here's what the cloud model you approved determines what happened next. If your organization is running on a SaaS platform, let's say a Salesforce, and the breach occurred because of a vulnerability in the application layer, that's the vendor's responsibility. The vendor's leadership is sweating under the lights. Their legal team is managing the response. Their CEO is the one on the news. You are reviewing their incident report, the compliance documentation. You are the customer demanding answers. If your organization built that same environment in IaaS, and your IT team owns the operating system layer, and a patch was missed, that vulnerability is yours. The breach is yours. The board meeting is yours. The regulatory inquiry is yours. Your team missed the security bulletin. That's the explanation you're giving. That's not a technology difference. That's a liability difference. And it was determined the moment you approved that architecture. The shared responsibility model makes the boundary explicit. In IaaS, almost everything above the physical layer is your responsibility. In PaaS, the vendor takes more of the stack, but you still own the code and the data dependencies. And in SaaS, the vendor owns the application, the infrastructure, the security of the platform. You just own the data and your access controls and your user configurations. When you read that document, you will see exactly which party receives the audit request when something goes wrong in each model. In SaaS, you hand the auditor the vendor's compliance report. In IaaS, you hand the auditor your own logs. And that distinction alone should inform every cloud decision your organization makes. When your IT leadership comes to you with a cloud proposal, I just want you to have 3 questions in your head. For IaaS, if they want IaaS, what is the specific mechanism that caps our operating cost? And who is on our team owns enforcement of that cap? For PaaS, what is the actual cost and time to exit this platform if we need to move? And for SaaS, do we have an entitlement audit in place, not just a login report? And do we know exactly what we are responsible for versus what the vendor covers? If those questions do not have clear answers, the proposal is not ready. The shared responsibility model link, again, is in the description. Read it before your next cloud conversation. It will change how you sit in the room. The cloud model your organization chooses does not just determine how you run technology. It determines how much of the risk sits on your balance sheets, and it determines who is sitting under the lights when something goes wrong. That is a decision that belongs to you, not your IT team.